Hey everyone, welcome to DZone Live, the KubeCon edition. Today is Thursday, September 9th, and we are just a few weeks away from KubeCon. It's a hybrid event this year with virtual events and in-person events. DZone team will be out in LA from the 13th to the 15th, and very excited to be out there. Today we've got a jam-packed agenda with some of the best out there. So we're going to go through ETL over at Commodore. Then we've got Jasmine over at Twitter. Then we have Ihor from the Cloud Native Foundation. And then we're going to close up with Daniel from New Relic. And then if you want to stick around for the very end, we will have a Q&A. So let's get going out of the gate and bring ETL from Commodore up to the stage.
Hey, Blake. Happy to be here.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome.
Good. How are you?
Doing very good. All right, so let's get going here. So out of the gate for our DZone audience, if you can tell people a little bit about yourself, your career, your role, and the exciting stuff you're doing over at Commodore.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So my name is ETL, and I'm the founder and CTO of Commodore. In the past, I worked in companies such as eBay, and then a couple of Israeli startups, one named Forter, and I was the first developer in a very small Israeli startup named Rookout. And I founded Commodore 1 year ago, together with my partner, Ben Fury, in order to help developers and DevOps troubleshoot issues and problems in Kubernetes a lot faster. And basically, I was a DevOps, or like an infrastructure engineer for all of my career. Ben came from Google, so we both had a lot of experience in troubleshooting issues and working with complex systems. And I wanted to take everything that I learned over the years and basically try to help like the rest of the dev community to gain control over their system and Kubernetes.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's pretty cool. And then with the increasing pace of really the software delivery cycle, it can be really frustrating. We hear it all the times from teams, especially in DevOps, for troubleshooting, like what went wrong and things like that. So how does Commodore actually help those teams?
Sure. So great question. Commodore, in a sense, is like the first and only Kubernetes troubleshooting platform. We track everything that is happening in your Kubernetes cluster, and everything, I really mean everything, like deployment, config map changes, ingress changes, node changes, and versions that are updated. Basically, we digest all of the data that is coming from the Kubernetes cluster into the Commodore platform and allowing you to get a single pane of glass, basically, of everything that happened inside your Kubernetes cluster. For each one of the Kubernetes resources, we build a comprehensive timeline that includes how did the service change regarding did the Kubernetes config change, or maybe there was an image change that also relates to source code changes. We take the changes that happen inside your Kubernetes cluster. We take the changes that happen outside your Kubernetes cluster, such as feature flags, source control changes, and so on, and build you for each one of your services a full timeline that includes basically how did it change over time. Troubleshooting in Kubernetes is very complex. Like the system usually is composed out of dozens, if not hundred, if not thousands of different microservices across clusters, across like namespaces, across regions, and so on. And when you have an issue with Kubernetes, what like you usually do is trying to do like some guesswork on what is the right platform to open right now to track like what changed and what is currently happening. And if you are lucky, then you somehow know where to look at. And if you're not that lucky, then basically you now need to work really hard to understand how did my system change and what might be the root cause of the issue that I'm currently experiencing. Commodore comes to simplify this by taking the data that you have inside your Kubernetes and outside of Kubernetes and to give you a very simple view on what is currently happening in your Kubernetes cluster. So we simplify the lives both for like the DevOps and the developers.
Great. So I really like the tagline that your company has. Commodore takes the complexity out of Kubernetes troubleshooting, providing the insights you need to troubleshoot with confidence. Because in the old days, when something went wrong, you had the whole team of 10, 20 people or more on a conference call or on a Zoom, and everyone's like, what went wrong? And it may take you a couple of days to actually figure everything out, which is never like an ideal scenario. So like getting from signal to noise on things like that, especially in complex environments, and especially with remote teams where things like that, it's even more paramount to be able to troubleshoot quickly.
Exactly, Blake. Yeah.
So that's kind of said it well said for there. And then just kind of switching gears a little bit, and we'll touch on some of the exciting stuff maybe coming up on Commodore at the end of this. But KubeCon North America is coming up in October, so a really big event around Kubernetes and cloud native. Will Commodore be out there, and is there anything that you're excited about for this big event?
Yeah, so we should have like a virtual presence inside like the conference. We should have like flown there, but because of COVID, it will probably won't happen. I'm super excited, mainly because we are planning on launching a new feature in the same time as KubeCon. Like I previously said, what Commodore does is to help you understand what is currently happening in your cluster and the history of everything that happened so you can troubleshoot faster. We are now working on taking Commodore into the next level and basically taking the first step you do as part of your troubleshooting process and automating them. So taking all of the manual toil out of troubleshooting and automating all of these parts. I can't really speak too much about it. We are going to do like a very big announcement around KubeCon, but I'm super excited, and mainly because I see it both as the future of Commodore, but more than that, as the future of troubleshooting and the future of like Kubernetes troubleshooting. So super excited.
Okay, great. So you'll be doing some virtual stuff. And then if you look in the chat for anybody watching us live, I actually put ETL's Twitter handle in there. I think you can find the Commodore one as well. So be sure to get onto Twitter and follow ETL. Check out Commodore, easy to find. It's with a K. Put a link into the website as well. And then when we kind of look at kind of the overall trends that we're seeing, I guess with sort of testing and troubleshooting and also with Kubernetes, what are the trends that you're seeing as we start to shift into Q4 this year and start to get into 2022? Are you seeing some trends sort of being on the front lines, and is there anything else that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think like the main trend that I'm seeing, that it was like a trend in the past, but now I see a lot of companies trying to adopt it, is the shift left movement, basically giving the developers the ability, the ownership over their services. I think there was a lot of buzz around it like over the last couple of years, but in the end of the day, from most companies I saw, it was more of like word, like it didn't really stick. Like people say, yeah, developers are king, but in the end of the day, the operation guys still deployed to production and still troubleshoot. And what I see in a lot like across the industry is the fact that because the DevOps has become the bottleneck of a lot of the organization, they try and they are forced to bring the control into the developers. So it's a very cool trend. It started with the CI/CD and GitOps allowing and freeing the DevOps from deploying to production. And now we are seeing like the phase 2 of this change by allowing developers to troubleshoot, and more than like allowing them, expecting developers to own their system like end to end. And I see this shift as a very like something very like early, but I do see that because it's so hard to get DevOps, and because you have like 10 developers per like developer per DevOps, and then this change is like it is happening whether you like it or not. And I think it's very cool to see where the industry will be in a year or two, and how developers are going to take more control and more responsibility when it comes to end-to-end troubleshooting.
Yeah, and we got Ray out of Atlanta who says, "Yay, shift left."
Yeah. Exactly. So I think like this is the most interesting trend that I'm viewing at the moment, and I think moving to Kubernetes is a very big catalyzer in doing this shift left movement, and it simplified a lot of things that like developers can now grasp and troubleshoot. But it's still hard.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. So it was really great to have you on today. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we let you go?
And happy to be here and looking for like KubeCon. I think there are a lot of cool things coming up.
Okay, well, it was really great to have ETL Schwartz from Commodore here today. I also put a link to their DZone article on the 3 pillars of Kubernetes troubleshooting. It's really great read, so be sure to check that out and follow them on Twitter and look for them in a big announcement with a new feature coming down at KubeCon around October 13th or so. So thanks, ETL, for being on with us today for DZone Live.
Thank you. Pleasure.
All right, up next, we are going to have our head of product at DZone, Kellett Atkinson, talking with Jasmine James, who is the engineering manager at Twitter. So I will be getting them up to stage in 1 second.
Are we both on here now? All right. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, Kellett. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Thanks for joining
so much
us
for having
today.
Me.
Yeah. So, Blake gave you an introduction, but I would love for you to tell the people that are watching now and later, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do at Twitter? I noticed I think you joined Twitter maybe a year ago or so. So
yeah.
What's that been like? And then, and just tell us a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So Jasmine James, engineering manager at Twitter within our engineering effectiveness organization, based in Atlanta. As you mentioned, Kellett, I've been here for a year. I'm primarily responsible for developer experience within our EE, as we call it. And really what I do is try to create a great experience for our internal engineers by partnering to solve productivity challenges. It ranges in a variety of challenges across the organization, but ultimately we provide tools that make our local development environment conducive to productivity. So things that make their lives easier, as well as documentation partnerships. So when it comes to adopting new technologies that engineers, constantly have to do, we try to make that experience great for them. Prior to this, I was at Delta Airlines, establishing their tooling to support a cloud transformation, and also drive technical and cultural adoption of cloud native development. So a lot of what ETL talked about previously was shifting left. We did a lot of that, driving the cultural changes that it takes to really be productive when it comes to cloud native development.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. And so when you, it seems like you're a big advocate for cloud native then.
Absolutely.
And part of your job, it sounds like, is to build, to solve developer pain points and create, more productive workflows. How does cloud native play into that? Like, where do those two converge for you? The cloud native movement and developer productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's twofold. I think that you have to first understand what the pain points are very intimately to know exactly what tools to choose to solve them in the best way. Because there's a variety of ways to, make the lives of developers easier, but how can we make sure that we're leveraging the latest and greatest to make sure that they're also having the ability to use these things, CNCF projects, right? But a lot of it is just understanding the problem to know what tool to use. So that's the one way that I address that.
What's the most common developer productivity issue you run into?
Most common productivity issue, I think that a lot of the time it relates to like building, and we build more frequently now, right? We're adopting these CI/CD practices, so understanding how we can optimize those builds and not necessarily do them all the time, just when needed, right? And making sure that optimization is there. Productivity, I think is an interesting thing because many people define it in different ways. It's, is it the number of times a developer commits to, master, right? But I think that ultimately throughout the software development lifecycle, productivity is the whole thing, right? So we're everywhere from the, defining requirements, making sure they map cleanly to, code changes, all the way throughout the deployments to production. So just understanding where those, kind of bottlenecks are, and then surfacing them to my other peers within EE to help me solve for those. Awesome.
So you are also a co-chair for KubeCon and Cloud Native Con, correct?
Yes. It's an exciting time. It's a great role I have.
So tell us about that. So obviously this is a KubeCon themed episode. So tell us what are you looking forward to, and what do you want people to know about the conference, and yeah, what takeaways would you like people to walk away with today?
Yeah, I think the role has been great. I've got the opportunity to work with some awesome co-chairs, Constance Karamalis and Stephen Augustus, who have been doing this for, I believe, over a year now. So learning from them has been fantastic. Also, being represented from an end user perspective has been really neat, because I've really just been a consumer of these products, right? And both of my roles, time at Delta, time at Twitter. So it's really great to be able to help curate, right, the content. Some of the things that I'm excited about are especially our new tracks that we're rolling out at North America this year. Our community, which has been there in previous KubeCon tracks, but our 101 track is very, very new. And I remember when I was getting started, taking a look at all of the CNCF projects, the incubation, the ones that have graduated, it was overwhelming. So 101 track is a great place for folks to start getting primers to those projects that are really relevant for them. And it was a really great opportunity to take what I read online from a documentation perspective and actually apply it and hear about actual companies that were doing things. One specific talk I'm excited about is one by Christian Heckelman coming up in about a month, that really talks about how not to start with Kubernetes. So how many times are you given direction as to what you should do? But it's really great to know maybe what you shouldn't do. So I'm really excited about that one on the 101 track, as well as another new track, our business value track. At Delta, when you're starting the process of justifying, leveraging a lot of these technologies, you have to make the case to your business partners, right? The finance organization. So now we have some real stories, some success stories of companies who have done this, how they did it, what things really resonated with the business side that allowed them to make that leap and go towards cloud native.
That's awesome, because usually the barrier between working with exciting technologies and getting the business to go that way is communicating the value of it. So totally super important, and I'll probably try to attend a couple of those. I'd love to just see kind of what is the case that is being made for why people should move into cloud native architectures and tools, and so that's awesome. So it sounds like a lot of good opportunity to learn in a there's a virtual component.
I think I lost Kellett. Oh, yes, I can hear you. I heard the virtual component. Do you mind repeating the question really quickly?
Yeah, so to know people can attend virtually and in person. International people that can't travel, do you recommend?
Absolutely. I think in KubeCon, the Europe version earlier this year, I had a great experience. Augustus and Constance and the rest of the program committee did a great job at putting the schedule together, coordinating the recordings, and really making it a meaningful event. I think that it's going to be really neat that we're having a hybrid option this year that offers that same flexibility. So highly, highly recommend attending virtually if you're unable to travel to LA and for KubeCon. A lot of the talks will be pre-recorded because some of the presenters won't be able to attend. So I think the experience is going to be as valuable as it was earlier this year. So definitely highly recommend.
Awesome. And then regardless of virtually attending or in person, what do you recommend for people to get the most out of their first time experience?
Yeah, so it wasn't so long ago that it was my first KubeCon, and one of the things that I really, really enjoyed was the engagement and building relationships. I think that the way to do that remotely would be make sure that you're in the Slack channels. There's tons of communities there that you can engage with presenters, folks who are interested in the same topics as you, so you can share those best practices and share those, war stories, if you will. Another way to engage, I think, and shameless plug, is Twitter. A lot of the presenters are going to be tweeting. So I definitely encourage you to follow, engage with those folks who are giving the talks that are relevant to your world, so that you can continue to get that support. In person, if you're planning on attending in person, I definitely think that you make time for our hallway track, outside of going to the actual presentations. I feel like it's really valuable to talk to folks like, ad hoc that you're meeting after the talks, to just establish that sense of community and camaraderie that makes KubeCon KubeCon. So yeah.
Great. That's awesome advice. And I really hope that people, take advantage and make the most of their experience this year. It sounds like there's a lot of great information. There's some good community going on, great ways to connect with peers thinking about these and using these tools. So really great advice. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share with people attending that I might have forgotten, or did we cover it all?
I think you've covered it all. Just looking forward to a fantastic event in about a month. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about my internet, but I really appreciate you sticking with me here, and really appreciate you sharing everything about the conference and your experience, and forward to talking to you again soon, hopefully.
Likewise. Take care.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Khaled and Jasmine. It's getting even more excited. KubeCon can't get here quick enough. Up next, continuing on that theme, who better than Ihor, developer advocate over at the Cloud Native Foundation, to bring up on stage and to have with us live all the way from the Ukraine. How's it going, Ihor?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you, Blake?
Yeah, doing really good, other than we got some crazy big thunderstorms going on in North America. So you might see me or Khaled's video freeze up, but otherwise we're doing really great today.
Got it. Perfect. That sounds great. Hopefully these thunderstorms won't bring any kind of difficulty to you, except of the irregular internet connection.
Yeah, exactly. All the plans and thunderstorms are always seem to always be, it's either like the leaf blowers showing up right before you go live, or it's thunderstorms, or any number of things. But that's the fun with this new virtual world, for sure, and working.
Yeah, definitely.
And then for those, I guess, really not familiar with kind of who you are and what you're doing, for our global audience of developers and software professionals, introduce yourself, your role, and tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm a developer advocate at the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which is the part of the Linux Foundation, which is one of the biggest the biggest foundations in the nonprofit foundations in the technology world. So I'm specifically focused on our projects and on the project-related activities and on the building community around our projects, and on building the Cloud Native community itself. So at CNCF, my primary focus is on helping build our ambassadors community, the meetups and Cloud Native groups community, and driving the mentoring programs for the people who are basically making their first steps in their Cloud Native careers, and how can we help them making it better and more efficient. But my background, when I joined CNCF, I was an active Kubernetes contributor. So my primary background, why I'm here and why I'm speaking with you as a Cloud Native person, is mostly related with Kubernetes.
Great. And then just a little bit more on the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. I get to ask a lot about that. So I'll say CNCF, what's that, and what are you doing? And so I know the sort of the community people you represent has to be huge. So just if you could, for our audience, tell people a little bit more about that, and maybe as well how they can get involved with it.
Yeah, sure. Like there are tons of different ways how can you be involved with the cloud native world. So we're not only speaking about the foundation itself as an organization right now, but we're speaking about the global cloud native ecosystem where cloud native computing foundation is a natural and big part, but not the only one. So CNCF is a home for various cloud native projects. Again, as Kubernetes, which was our first and second and the anchor project, which was accepted to the foundation, and which was basically not accepted to the foundation itself, but the foundation was built together with the Kubernetes exception to the Linux Foundation. So around 6 years ago, they've been made a decision that there should exist the dedicated foundation in the technology world that will be focused on the cloud native and the container related technologies and all the related stuff, where when Kubernetes was donated to the Linux Foundation by Google. If you don't know, Kubernetes was originally developed by Google as their internal but open source tool. But later, we have grown significantly. So today, CNCF hosts more than 100 various projects at the different maturity levels. Those accredited, incubating, and the sandbox projects. And I would say this is an impressive progress. So we're speaking about KubeCons today, right? So KubeCon 2021 is coming, but my first KubeCon that I have attended in person was in Seattle back in 2016. It was 5 years ago. And I don't recall the exact number, how many CNCF projects did we have at that point of time, but I believed it was something like around 5 or 6, if the number was not lower. So this industry and this environment, this ecosystem made a huge progress in the number of projects, in the variety of projects, in the different in the different industries, in the different niches where these projects are focused on. So again, we can mention Kubernetes, we can mention Prometheus as the primary, is the first CNCF project. But with 100 projects that we have on the CNCF project landscape right now, and with more than 1,000 projects that are on the cloud native, on the big cloud native landscape these days, so I would definitely say that this is probably one of the most fast-growing industries in the technology world these days.
Yeah, and just following up on the projects, we've got the exciting event coming up, as you mentioned, with KubeCon and Cloud Native Con. Is there any sort of projects that jump to mind that we should definitely check out for anyone that's going to be either virtual or in person?
Well, it's hard to advise to anyone like some specific projects. Again, like if I will just select a few of these projects from more than 100 projects, it will be a little bit unfair to other projects that haven't been picked up by me in this few seconds. But the better advice that I can give to you is check out the schedule of the KubeCon. Check out the list of the projects on the CNCF website. Check out the bigger CNCF landscape, which lists all the projects that exist in this ecosystem. On the landscape, you can specifically sort some of these projects based on the technologies, based on the on the tools that they're using. Or, for example, if you're looking for some specifically security projects, let's say, or if you're looking for some storage related projects or whatever. So you can use the CNCF landscape easily, or you can just go to the CNCF website, go directly to the top level drop down menu. You'll find projects and the sandbox projects there, and you'll be able to find a few there. Specifically, so again, like I will not focus on any specific projects right now, but if you're interested in the future trends, probably it's worth checking the sandbox projects. So the sandbox, like basically the CNCF sandbox is like the the sandbox projects are at the lowest level of maturity, but this is, I haven't said it in any kind of the negative context. So sandbox projects are at the beginning of their development. They're at the beginning of building their communities and building their technological tools. So they're pretty new to this world. But most of them definitely represent what you will see at the incubated and graduated level in the next few years. And most of them you will definitely see them widely implemented in a highly critical production environment in the next few years. So again, if you're looking for some technology trends, for example, sandbox, CNCF sandbox can be a good representative for this. But again, if you're looking for something that you can implement today for your highly critical project that requires the significant level of maturity of your project, so you can definitely check out the graduated projects or incubating projects that are a little in between the sandbox projects. They are still new, but not so new as sandbox projects. The incubating projects are well known to the ecosystem, but they also have some kind of bright future next to them. So they are still at the growing phase of their development and the growing phase of their community building around them. So worth checking out all of them. But again, my primary advice, focus on what you are most interested in. Like if you're the security person, for example, with some security background, or if you'd like to focus more in this area, so check out the security specific projects. If you're looking for something, let's say, specifically focused on the containerization of your tools, again, we have a few projects in the CNCF, on the CNCF projects page that can satisfy your need, and so on. So just focus on what you're looking for, and you will definitely find an answer there.
Very cool. And then just kind of taking a step back, so just for those coming to either the virtual or in person, is there any sort of that they can't miss, some really exciting things we should definitely make sure that we attend? And the second part of that is any just sort of general tips for people like us who are coming out for the first time in person?
Sure. Well, so the last year was definitely challenging for all of us around the globe, and it has significantly switched the way of basically how does every single industry in this world does operate. And the same actually happened with the events, with the technology events. So with KubeCon, we made a decision that in 2021, in the fall 2021, we'll run the KubeCon event in a hybrid format. It will be the big benefit for all the parts of the community, for those people who will be able to make it in person. I personally plan, so if you'll be around, say hi to me. But if you're not able to make it for various reasons, so you'll be able to still join the sessions, you'll be able to still interact with people, you'll be able to still have some amazing conversations with folks from all over the globe. But even in the future, when hopefully the pandemic will end, I hope that we'll see way more hybrid conferences as KubeCon in the future. I personally heard so much feedback from various folks in the community in the past that they would like to visit KubeCon, they'd like to be there, but they're not able to make it for various reasons. It could be the geopolitical issues or financial issues or family reasons, so like whatever. You just cannot make it there, and you're like feeling the huge FOMO about it. But with the hybrid case, like with the hybrid format of the conference, you'll still be able to be there. For example, if you have to stay this week for the family reasons at home, you cannot fly to the different part of the world to attend a face-to-face conference. You're still able to join live. You're still able to watch the talks, and you are still able to interact with other folks and still be present in this community. So definitely having the hybrid format. Again, it added enough challenges also to the organizer's side, but hopefully this won't be an issue for any of our attendees. Again, if you're willing to speak at the event, you'll be able to do it even if you're not present in the audience. If you're willing to be at the event as a participant, you'll be able to do it.
Okay, great. And I guess one other question that I'm sure you get asked a million times, is there any like one restaurant or any food place we should definitely check out while in LA? I don't know if you've been to LA before, but do you have any restaurant tips?
Well, actually, I've been to LA once, but just for one night, for the live concert of one of my most loved performances, one of my most loved bands. So unfortunately,
looks like you froze up a little bit when we asked you that. Sorry.
Yeah. Am I back now?
Yeah, you're back.
Awesome. Yeah. So actually, I've been to LA once just for one night. So I mostly explored the suburbs of the city. So I don't have any tips for the restaurants. I don't have any tips for the local food probably, but you can definitely check the nice suburbs of the city, where you'll have your car with you, or if you'll rent something, or if you'll find a way to drive outside of the downtown. So there are definitely enough green areas and the mountaineers areas and the ocean areas where you can definitely enjoy your time there.
Yeah, it's very cool. I saw the only night not to do anything crazy is the night before, because there's a Lakers game at home at the Staples Center, and downtown's going to be a madhouse then. But otherwise, it's going to be kind of nice. And then switching gears, two more things. So there's so much going on with cloud native of late. As we're starting to get into next year, 2022, it's hard to imagine we're almost into Q4 2021. But what are some of the trends that you're seeing around cloud native? I mean, you're a great person. You're so connected in the industry and the space with so many projects and people. What are some of the ones that you're most excited about as far as trends?
Sure. Well, probably one of the most one of those trends that excite me the most is that Kubernetes becomes boring. This is one of the trends that we have seen for the last few consecutive years, and this means that not Kubernetes is shutting down as a project, definitely not, but Kubernetes is not so actively developed with some brand new and not so less tested features as, let's say, 5 years ago. So these days, Kubernetes is probably one of the most stable and mature technologies in the cloud native world. So we will not see so many new features, so many new exciting features as we could see presented at KubeCon, let's say, in 2016. But what is more important is that the cloud native ecosystem is growing. And again, as I mentioned before, the number of projects around Kubernetes and around the cloud native world are growing. The number of tools that can be directly connected with some other tools, again, like with Kubernetes or Prometheus or any of them, is also growing. The number of people who are interested in these technologies is also growing. For example, I have to mention that this year mentorship programs with CNCF, we had the biggest number of mentees that has ever applied to the various mentoring programs. This means that we have the way higher number of people who are, again, most of them are at the beginning of their careers, and they're looking for open source as the way to build out their portfolio, to get some experience working with the technologies of the highest level. And the number of people is growing. This means that these people are interested in this industry, and we can definitely see some of them as the well-established project maintainers in the next few years. So this is definitely the most notable and important trends for me personally. But if you'll attend KubeCon in a month, in the next few weeks, you can definitely pick up a few trends for yourself.
Great, thanks for that, Ihor. And then last, one of the things, just to hear your feedback on, one of the friends that I have, Todd, over at Oracle. So a lot of the sort of mistakes people have with developer advocate roles is the roles aren't for advocating to developers, right? He always says we're advocating for developers. We're not advocating to developers. And it's such a simple point that a lot of people almost kind of like mislead. So Ihor, your role isn't marketing to developers. Your role is basically advocating for them and giving them a voice. So I'm just curious a little bit at your kind of thoughts on that and just kind of the role of a developer advocate in general. Yeah,
sure. Well, I would say that my role is somehow in between. So I believe that my role is in between. Like on one hand, we have the developers community, and on the other hand, we have people who are trying to consume these tools, or are interested in consuming these tools, or are actively using these tools, but they're getting to know a little bit more about them. And also, we also like another part of my role is like connecting to being a person like in between different level of developers. Like on the one hand, we have individuals who have significant level of experience, who have been the software developers, for years, and they've been probably one of the most well-known people who are building these tools. And on the other hand, we have people who are trying to grow, who are willing to know something more, who are trying to learn these technologies, but not only as the consumers, but as the developers. And I would say that our role, my personal role, and CNCF's role as a foundation is also in connecting these different groups of people and letting them work together, and letting people who are the established and well-known software developers also to offload some of their responsibilities and to share their knowledge with some other folks who are eager to know something new about these tools and who are willing to be more involved into the software development community in the open source world.
Okay, great. Now, so that was the last, and then we had a comment from Ray who says, for Ihor, it's a good thing that Kubernetes is slowing down. Organizations have been struggling to keep up. Lots of other cool stuff going on in the CNCF.
Awesome quote. Thank you, Ray.
All right. Well, thanks again for all that. So we have Ihor. We've got their link to their Twitter. You can see it on the screen as well. They'll be out at KubeCon this year in LA, October 13th through 15th in person. They've got the hybrid going on. Be sure to follow them on Twitter. Be sure to check them out. It was so great, especially for our side as first timers. Can't wait to be out there. But thanks so much for telling us a little bit about the CNCF, KubeCon, your role, and everything going on. That's really exciting to have you here today, Ihor.
Sure. Thank you, Blake.
All right, and then our last guest before we get to the Q&A, we've got a very special guest joining us, and I'm going to bring up the stage Daniel Kim from New Relic.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Daniel, how's it going? So then tell people a little bit about your role, maybe your career, and what's going on over at New Relic.
Yeah, so I'm a senior developer advocate here at New Relic. And yeah, what I do is I try to make our technology and our point of view in the technology world more accessible to everyone. And New Relic, if you guys don't know, is an observability company, which means we help engineers and developers and ops personas see into their systems to see what's going on. If there's something going on, you can get better visibility. And we try to provide tools that make everyone's lives slightly easier. So that's kind of what New Relic does. And yeah, I'm super excited for today, this year's KubeCon, because I'm going to be there, and I organized a couple of things like events, like workshops, and the booth activities that are super exciting and interactive. I'm super excited for KubeCon.
Oh, wow. So you actually are doing some stuff. So let's hear, what are some of the cool events that you're going to be doing at KubeCon?
Yeah, so I'm doing a workshop around Pixie. So Pixie is one of the newest technologies that New Relic has acquired in this journey to make observability better for everyone. And Pixie is this really cool technology that leverages something called eBPF, which allows the technology to actually go into the kernel level of Kubernetes applications and read what's going on to get awesome data. And then you can get better visibility into your Kubernetes clusters without actually having to instrument it. So when I first heard about Pixie, I was like, ooh, this is really cool, but how would I actually use this for my production or my sample applications? So that's kind of where I came in, and I actually built a workshop to kind of demonstrate how engineers and ops folks can actually use Pixie in production and what kind of data they can get out. So yeah, I'm doing a debugging workshop around Pixie, and I will also be doing demos and stuff at the booth around how Pixie works.
So you'll be there in person, and is your workshop in person as well?
Yep, they're both in person.
Okay, and do you have the date or time, or just look on the calendar for people that want to see it?
I believe the workshop is on on October 12th.
Okay.
And it's gonna be running I think there's 3 different sessions. You should probably look on the schedule for that. It's for DevX Day. And I'll be at the booth October 13th, 14th, and 15th, I believe, in person.
Okay, nice. So then for anyone out there coming in person, there's a workshop day on October 12th. Be sure to check out Daniel Kim's exciting event for that. And then it'll be over in the booth area from the 13th through 15th. is beyond what you're doing there, is there any sessions or anything else that you're really excited to check out while you're there?
Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of cool CNCF projects that make life a lot easier for developers and have a wonderful, like, easy onboarding experience. And I'm super excited to check out more projects that I haven't seen or heard of, because I know that the CNCF now is hosting so many projects that are doing so many cool things. So I can't wait to like actually go and meet some of the developers that are working on these projects, and and see and meet everyone, because I think this is my first KubeCon in person. So I'm super excited to go and hang out and see everyone's cool projects.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's our first time as well. Not the first time to LA, but definitely the first time for this. So it's going to be just one of the biggest events in the world in this space. So it's amazing. I mean, seeing people on Zoom is great, but getting to see people in person, I guess maybe I'm old school, still amazing as well.
No, definitely. I think meeting someone in person is like a next level of actually getting to know someone and things like that. Zoom, there's always kind of a limit, I think. There's always space, but you know, I can see how tall people are in person, I guess. So it's easier to like make a connection, I think.
Nice. It's very cool. And I guess so that's got all the stuff there for KubeCon. And then what's some of the exciting stuff, going on with New Relic? I think you'll have like a podcast or some sort of live stream on Twitch or something else that y'all were doing that seemed pretty cool.
Yeah, so we are doing a lot of really cool stuff at New Relic. And I think the most exciting thing that I think we're doing is making tools that are getting easier, making it easier to use to get into New Relic, because a couple of years ago, New Relic was just a hodgepodge of like a bunch of awesome tools that were just kind of loosely tied together. But what our new kind of company vision is to tie everything together into one platform and make it easier to ingest data and then get started with New Relic. So part of what my team is doing and kind of what the awesome engineers are doing is trying to make it easier for people to get started with New Relic, and not just have Fortune 500 companies which use New Relic, but also have regular developers who are like working on their hobby projects to like start with New Relic. So I think I'm super excited about like stuff like Pixie and our open source initiatives that are making it easier and more standardized to actually use tools that you already used to get data into New Relic and getting value out of New Relic. So that's kind of the stuff I'm really excited about. Also, we also have really awesome Twitch streams, and we also do awesome events. So if you check out the New Relic Twitch channel, we're on there almost every day, creating new cool things with New Relic and other technologies. Yeah, we're doing awesome stuff on the internet. So if you want to check us out there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make sure I put the right New Relic in there. There's so many Relic.
I believe it's new_Relic. I think that's the Twitch name.
All right, so let me put that into the. So I put a link in the chat for that. Be sure to check that out. They got daily stuff going out. I know you talked about Pixie, things like that. Or is just sort of we're almost into 2022. Is there any other trends that you're seeing or excited about in the sort of Kubernetes and cloud native space?
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago when Kubernetes was first starting to get really popular, every year there was just a major release of like a bunch of new features in Kubernetes. And honestly, for enterprises who are trying to adopt Kubernetes, like the goalposts kept getting shifted like faster and faster because so many new features were getting shipped every year. But I think Kubernetes and the cloud native space is starting to kind of mature as more and more tools are now being created to make it easier for developers to adopt cloud native. And there are more and more tools like New Relic that are making it easier for companies to actually see what's going on and build tooling to make it easier to work with. So that's kind of the exciting trends that I'm seeing is these products that are designed to help enterprises now modernize their stacks to adopt cloud native and make that process easier and that journey easier.
Great, very cool. And then similar question and sort of comment that I made to Ihor. So a lot of times you're working in a developer advocate role, working in with developer communities, and a lot of the times the mistake is for a lot of people they're just like it's kind of almost seeing these roles as we're marketing to people, marketing to developers, or advocating at them. And then as my friend Todd from Oracle says, actually developer advocates, we're advocating for developers, right? So just kind of curious to hear kind of like your thoughts on the role of developer advocates and developer communities in general.
Yeah, so I think the best thing about developer advocacy is that everyone does it differently and everyone has a different take on it. And for me, what I do is I just try to solve problems I see wrong, that could be solved by me. So, for example, when I first joined the company, I was working before I joined New Relic. I was working at a small startup that was doing React development and very front end heavy. So when I first joined New Relic, I actually didn't know a lot about DevOps. So what I did as a developer advocate was learn furiously. So I was talking to a bunch of engineers at New Relic to figure out what New Relic does and try to translate that into content and to documentation that was more accessible, so people like me who didn't know as much about observability or DevOps could get started and get value out of New Relic. So that's, I think, my take on developer advocacy is seeing gaps that you see for developers and trying to fill those gaps through informational content.
Very cool. And where do you see sort of developer community sort of maturing now? Because, I mean, they've been around since the 90s. And so now it seems like they're getting much more mature, not like kind of like fragmented all over the place. We're really providing a defined experience, because in the past for so many developers, you had like getting started docs over here, you had like video stuff over here. Community could be just maybe social initially, but that's, you know, not really community, things like that. So where do you kind of see it kind of maturing to sort of flywheel so that you're empowering those developers using your products even more, or even just getting started, right?
I think developers are getting more and more savvy, so they can tell if a company's trying to just say they're doing developer community just for the sake of developer community. So I think in the future, I think companies are starting to realize that you need to actually provide tangible value to your community for you to kind of create community. You need to provide value. So like what New Relic is doing with like contributing a lot to open source through GitHub sponsors, or like organizing community-led events and helping fund those things, like doing things that actually provide value to the community will in turn provide value back to your company. So I'm super excited for companies to start adopting that model where the developer advocates are actually providing tangible value to the community and hence growing the community around their particular product. So that's the super exciting trend that I'm seeing, that I'm super excited about, is the renewed interest in like funding open source by companies. I know it's not where it should be, but it's getting there. And yeah, the commitments developer advocates have to helping the community at large.
Okay, very cool. And then we'll shift over here in a second to our Q&A round, get everybody that's still around up for a Q&A for the audience. So anyone watching around the world, be sure in the comments to start putting in any questions. Otherwise, it'll just be us talking. And I can't, obviously, before we get into the Q&A, last question, then your shirt, Data Nerd. Tell people a little bit about shirt. We're big, cool shirt people. So tell people a little bit about your cool Data Nerd shirt.
Yeah, so I think our official company, it's not our company mascot. Our company mascot is this a version of our logo with googly eyes, but we officially call ourselves Data Nerds. That's kind of like how you identify yourself. That's like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the origin of it. I think our old CEO, Lucerne, came up with Data Nerd, but yeah, it's like an unofficial company thing where we call ourselves Data Nerds. That's like our unofficial mascot.
Very cool.
And these shirts are extremely soft. So if you come to KubeCon, you should pick one up. They're really good.
All right, there you go. Get that Data Nerd t-shirt. So with that, we'll leave you up here and we'll start a Q&A. So anyone with questions, be sure to do that. So I'm going to start bringing everybody else back up to stage here. So I don't know if ETL is still around. There's ETL. So welcome, everybody. So we had an amazing show today. If you're not excited for KubeCon after this, I don't know what will get you excited. All right, Kelly, you're always better with questions than me. So any questions to get us started here?
Well, I guess since Daniel is on the West Coast, we should ask him about places to eat.
Well, I'm Korean, so every time I go to LA, I just like go to all the Koreatown in LA and then go eat some Korean barbecue. And there's some really awesome like tofu places, like tofu houses that are Korean in LA. So love that. All the Asian food in LA is just top notch. So I love going to get Asian food of all kinds.
And Jasmine, will we see you at the conference?
As of now, the plan is to be at the conference and be there in person to see everyone's smiling faces. I'm really excited about that. I definitely miss adult interaction during the pandemic. So I'm very excited to have a few days in LA eating Korean food and, engaging with folks.
And what I know Blake touched on this before, but what are the kind of like non session related things at the conference that, for Blake and I will be going out there. So what should we be doing when we're not attending sessions? What's like the big thing to do?
That is a great question. Oh, was that for me?
Go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say.
It was for anybody. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, from a KubeCon perspective, I talked a little bit about like the after hour, like kind of like meeting up and going out to like grab food with the folks that you're talking with, like via hallway track. I think there's also a lot of AMAs, like a lot of Ask Me Anything sessions that are going to be really, really cool to see outside of the standard presentation stuff. Over to you, Daniel, though. For a better answer.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think at these types of conferences, the best thing to do is just make friends. That's like the directive. So I think just talking to folks in the hallway track and exactly what Jasmine said, just going and getting food together that's what I'm looking forward to, honestly, the most, is getting good food with people I've never met who we're gonna be best friends after the conference.
Yep. Yeah, and do you guys know how many people will be in attendance tentatively?
Yeah, it's hard to say right now. So let's wait for our official public announcement at the KubeCon itself.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think I got that might be the answer I got.
I think the email said like around 4,000. That was like the latest quote, but I'm not sure. Don't quote.
So it should be pretty easy to meet some new friends.
Well, yeah. There've been, hopefully there'll be enough people, but again, like let's wait for the final numbers. Like we always tell to the audience the final number at one of our keynotes at KubeCon. And for example, at our last face-to-face conference in San Diego, we had 12,000 people, and last year, but so obviously since this is the hybrid conference, and it can be kind of difficult to have people from the different parts of the world. So we may have different numbers, but we'll definitely have the good number that we'll be happy to share with the audience.
And is there a way for the in-person attendees to interface with the virtual attendees? Do the virtual attendees get to do the hallway track?
There are a few Slack channels that are driven by the CNCF events team and that serve as the hallway track. And probably Jasmine can tell more about this, but in the past we also had some Zoom conversations around the community. Someone on Twitter has created a random Zoom conversation, as you could have like in a past, in a pre-pandemic era, like just staying together and having some fun conversations there. So yeah, definitely there will be some opportunities for folks.
Awesome. It looks like we have a question.
All right.
That's
so
not mine.
Yeah, so Ray out of Atlanta area, kind of one of our big DZone writers, really experienced microservices, etc. As mentioned, building on Kubernetes is the next wave. Do developer advocates across vendors interact to help an organization then develop a strategy?
Well, I can take that one. So yeah, I think the industry is starting to move towards consolidating around certain open source standards. So an example would be like, we don't like work directly with our competitors because I don't think that's like kosher. But what we do instead is we adopt open source protocols and support open source protocols together as people in the same space. Something that we're doing, like for example, is working with other competitors on adopting open telemetry. So instead of competing on how to instrument our applications, we're competing on how to analyze and actually like do it. So we don't make instrumentation a barrier to entry to like start monitoring your applications. So I think that's kind of like what I'm seeing, but I'm not sure if directly working with competitors is something I'm seeing for clients, from my side at least.
Very cool. And then anything from you, Igor, on that one?
Yeah, nothing from me at this point of time.
Okay, great. All right, thanks for that question, Ray. Very good question. One other note, like we're working right now to have like on our side a fun event on Wednesday the 13th, basically like a meetup around 7 at the Grand Central Market. Looks cool. And then getting over to Max's karaoke studio for an hour of karaoke. So we'll probably have some 80s music and all different types of music, maybe some Boys to Men, all different types of stuff going on at Max's. Hopefully it's open. And then maybe going to like 2 Bits Arcade or something like that on Wednesday night. So we hopefully have more details on that, but just doing some fun, trying out some different food, getting in some good singing. Fun singing, and then just maybe a LA bar or something like that on a Wednesday night when not much is going on. We should have some more details on that. We're also going to be doing a special episode of DZone Live while we're out there, so we're working with the team on that. But otherwise, just super excited to be out there. Just as we kind of wrap up here today, so any other last kind of, just feel free to go around from Igor to Jasmine, Daniel, and Kelly. Just any final thoughts for anyone that might be on the fence for going to KubeCon this year, either virtually or in person. Final thoughts for why they should go.
Yeah, just enjoy the events, or wherever you'll be in LA in person, or you'll be next to your screen in your part of the world. Just enjoy this event, so it should rock.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that one of what I'm seeing in the programming that we've developed over the past couple of months and the CFPs the proposals that were submitted is a lot of diversity in the pool of presenters, a lot of unique perspectives that will be brought. So I'm very excited to see that, as well as all of that, sort of coming to the different tracks, right? For Business Value 101, the student track. So there's really something for everyone at KubeCon this year. So whether you're attending virtually or in person, definitely we have something for you. So yeah, very excited for next month.
Anything from you, Daniel?
Yeah, like Jasmine said, I'm agreeing with Jasmine a lot, but yeah, I think, KubeCon this year is going to be great. And even if you join virtually or in person, I think it's going to be a great experience where we get to learn so much more about the ecosystem and learn more about the cool technologies coming out in cloud native. So yeah, can't wait to see you at KubeCon, everyone who's watching and y'all.
And I guess I'll wrap up with a DZone plug, kind of. For all the people that are interested in KubeCon, we're going to be releasing a Kubernetes in the Enterprise Trend Report in November. And I believe, Jasmine, I think you might be featured in that as a writer. So Jasmine will be in there. Ray, who was asking questions, I think he's writing in that report. So, once you got all that excitement around Kubernetes from going to KubeCon, and you want to know what's next, that'd be the next thing. Make sure to, get on the wait list for that report and download it, and hopefully it'll kind of help you continue your learning and awareness of the space.
Great, very exciting. Thanks for that, Kelly. So just wrapping up for our KubeCon episode, first one we've ever done. We're going to be super excited that the huge DZone team will be out there in person. So definitely looking forward to connect, meeting with developers and teams in person from around the world. Really diverse. Just go to look at that 2019 highlight reel that KubeCon did last year. It's a big, diverse community from all over the world. So many passionate, amazing people. Can't wait to meet those in person. We will be doing, like I mentioned, DZone live taping. If you want to get on and speak to that, you're definitely reach out to us, let us know. Or if you want to come out and sing some Boys to Men with us on Wednesday night at Max's room, you're definitely welcome to do that. We're going to be doing some food at the Grand Central Market. Otherwise, it's I think it's going to be 3 days that fly by super fast. And this industry, it's just amazing to take some time out to learn and connect with everyone here. This space is so fast moving. So just a huge thanks to all that you do. Igor, just really amazing work. Jasmine, really amazing to see what you're doing over at Twitter, everything you're doing with KubeCon. Daniel, lots of exciting work going on with New Relic. And Kayla, thanks for mentioning our Trend report in November. So everyone have a great rest of your day, and hopefully everyone's off to a great September.
Bye, everyone.